Are you grappling with jumpstarting your Salesforce career post-pandemic? Heather Black, our thought leader for the month, has just the right real-world pointers to get you blazing. She is a 6X certified golden hoodie trailblazer and founder of Supermums, a global Salesforce training and recruitment brand, which helps women to accelerate their Salesforce career. Supermums has supported 280 plus trainees and engaged 170 plus volunteers across 9 different countries worldwide. Welcome, Heather.
Oh, thank you for having us, Teresa.
We're very happy to have you. So, Heather, let's start with a subject close to your heart. You are passionate about empowering women in the workplace and the tech industry. What are the essential soft skills that you would say women re-entering the workplace should hone in particular?
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. So I teach our mums or our trainees, we have mums, dads, and some people that aren't either on our programs, coaching skills and business analysis skills. And quite often these are skills that our trainees and say mums have already in their toolkit. Quite often they might have used informally, in different roles they've had before. If we were to really simplify what coaching and business analysis is, it's very much about asking the right questions for people, helping understand what their business problems are, helping to solve their business problems. That's it in a nutshell. And a lot of those skills they might have done in previous jobs, but not known that it was really coaching or business analysis as the more formal terms. And my background was a business coach. So for me, I was like, oh, I didn't realize actually these business coaching skills are exactly the same thing, but actually helping implement Salesforce implementations. What I found really useful though was doing a more formalized course in business analysis and coaching to really fine tune and understand, the nuances and the more formalities of doing it for a Salesforce project. And that's now what I teach trainees when they come on our Supermums program. It's kind of more those formal skills, but they're great skills. They're not scary skills. They're ones that anybody can sort of, get under their tool belt. There is a very low barrier to entry with those. It just really is about learning them.
Right, but they are so crucial to the project.
I think so, absolutely, because technology projects isn't just about the technology. Actually, I would say technology is maybe like 30% of it. The 60% of skills required for Salesforce projects is people engagement skills and making sure that you understand what the business priorities are, problems are, and that you're implementing a solution that will meet those needs. So, it's incredibly important that you've got coaching business analysis skills to successfully bring a project to life. The technology and building the product is very important too, obviously, but that tends to be, I would say, to a 50-60 split.
That's true. And, a Salesforce career path can have varied trajectories. When you're at the crossroads of choosing certifications and paths, what pointers would you give a person at that juncture to pick the career path that fits best?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one too. So you could go down either route. I mean, I've done 5 or 6 different jobs within the Salesforce ecosystem since I started. And I think that's the joy of the marketplace, is that you don't need to stick one path and then that's the route you go down. You can, choose different roles at different points in your life that suit you. So, for example, I started out building systems for a lot of my clients and working virtually because I was breastfeeding my daughter and wanting to work at home more and didn't want to travel into London much. And so being more the admin and building the system, I was doing business analysis virtually with them, but that worked really well for me because I really enjoyed just tinkering with the system and building it and spending hours doing it. And then when my daughter was 2, I really was getting that. I missed going out and meeting people and doing workshops. And so I took on more of the role of a consultant BA role and actually did more of the business analysis and decided to step back from building the system. And I worked collectively with other team members to where they would then focus on building the system. And I would go out enjoying my time kind of facilitating the workshops, gathering requirements, thinking about what the system could be, but then not having to build it. I can test it and understand it. So it's really good to have those you know, that understanding of the system and how it should work. But I really enjoyed doing that side of it. So I think you can go down to, you know, there are those two tracks. There's a sort of the very much the people side, where you're going out meeting people, discussing things with stakeholders all the time. You know, you're not kind of building the system. So typically those people sided skills would be business analysis, project management, consultant, because a consultant can be hybrid as well. And you're kind of, as I say, dealing a lot more with people and gathering requirements. Or you could go down the route of admin, advanced admin, developer, architect route, where you're very much, you've gone through building the system and understand the build to a point. An architect is where you know you've done most of the building and you're managing people who are building the system. I don't think it's one or the other. Like, you know, you can obviously go down those tracks and stick with them, but equally, you know, you could decide at any point to
Move back.
do something. Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. Heather, you became an accidental Salesforce admin, so to speak, in 2011 while managing your nonprofit. What advice would you give women with a non-technical background seeking to take the Salesforce plunge? How viable is it as a career choice?
So when we recruit people onto the Supermums program, or we do a 5-day challenge, actually from our website, you can sign up to a 5-day challenge, and we get them to understand what the Salesforce ecosystem is. We get them to do a test trailhead, which is a way of learning the system and understanding it, and gives you exposure to a little bit about how you build the system. Our foundation course, the admin course, gives them an understanding of what Salesforce is. It helps them to get their hands dirty to see if they like it or not. But what it does is teach you what Salesforce can do, and say gives you a taste of building a technology system. I think it's a great foundation course for whichever trajectory you go into that we've just talked about, because from that you can decide, actually I really enjoy building the system and, you know, I want to do more of that. Or you might say, actually I love understanding what Salesforce can do, but actually building the system isn't the thing for me. So I'll go down the route of being a BA and a project manager or consultant, where you don't have to build, but you get all the fun bit about designing and thinking about it in your head and gathering requirements. So we talk about non-tech background. I think the reality is Salesforce is open to anybody from any walks of background. We've seen that. You know, we've actually had over now about 450 trainees go through our program globally. So it's, you know, we've really sort of ramping up our numbers, and you know they have such a wide range of backgrounds. I think the thing is to get stuck in and figure out which job suits you.
Salesforce is very flexible in that. Right. Talking about, you know, our times, the pandemic has you know, made working from home the new normal, and it has thrust the challenges of the same on an unprepared workforce. You know, as a seasoned work from homer, you know, you balanced work and motherhood. What advice would you give women struggling with context switching and load balancing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think people assume, oh, it's like, oh, great, I can just pop the washing on in my lunchtime. Or I think, you know, during the pandemic, it was harder if the kids are at home, right? I think, you know, I think reflecting on the new norm now, where we've got the balance that we want, I think it is about having a routine. So every quarter I will sit down and rejig my diary and create new habits if ones aren't working for me, and really schedule things out. So I'll block time out for things. I'll, you know, and that might mean working in the evening sometimes, so I can take half a day off to do something for myself. So I will go and do a horse riding lesson at 11:30 on Tuesday, which I'm learning, getting there, but it's the only time I could do it. But I'll work Tuesday night because I've done that. So I think it's really important that women make time for themselves, because we have to look after ourselves to be able to look after everybody else, and our own health and well-being is important. I think equally you need to create new routines and habits for doing that with your kids. And I think, you know, if you're picking up the kids early, you know, looking after them, I think it's incredibly hard to have a computer open when the kids are running around, because you tend to be trying to juggle, and then you get cross with them and it doesn't work, and then you make a mistake. And you know, I think that I'm very thankful actually I had kids, because it made me stop working when they were around. You know, I don't work when they're there, or I get a nanny cover if I need to, which is, you know, very, you know, not common now. The girls are a bit older. But I think it's about creating those habits, planning out a diary, managing your time, but making time for you as well within that.
That's true. And despite all the buzz, gender parity in tech is far from a reality. A recent study by Accenture and Girls Who Code showed that 50% of women abandon technology careers by the age of 35, and 79% of women believe that the tech industry is not a place where they could thrive. Do you feel Salesforce Ohana runs contrary to that tide to offer a welcoming and nurturing launchpad for women?
Yeah, it's a really great question, isn't it? And I'd love research to demonstrate that that is the case, to back it up. So I can certainly speak anecdotally about what I think. I think the tech industry more broadly is obviously got a challenge retaining women. I do feel there are some stats here that would support what I'm going to say, but I think the Salesforce Ohana is supporting women more readily. I think that's happened twofold. One, I think the Salesforce admin route, there was stats shared at Dreamforce, not last year, actually the year before, that 50% of Salesforce admins are women. I think that shows that there is a good entry route for women. I think the main thing is maintaining those females up through the ranks in Salesforce roles beyond admins. That is to say they're an admin, they've got their admin cert versus perhaps an admin job role. Again, there wasn't enough shared perhaps kind of evidence of which job roles they might have. I think though the other challenge has been, and more broadly, I'll talk about that stat more broadly, I think the problem is not the tech industry, or it's the company policies within the tech industry and the hiring practices, the support for parents, generally, I would say, for dads and mums, why should it just be mums that pick up most of the responsibilities? But I know some dads want some more, want to get more involved. I think Salesforce have very strong values that they echo within the Salesforce ecosystem around supporting diversity and inclusion, supporting innovation and customer service and everything like that. And I think companies are listening to what Salesforce put out there and are thinking, well, how do we do things differently? We see that within the customers that the Salesforce Supermums recruitment team work with. They want to hire women. They want to know how to support them better. There is that appetite. Okay. I think also, though, the pandemic, from a positive point of view, dare I say that, is companies have had to embrace remote working and allow more flexibility. And there is trends like the Great Resignation now, which is causing people to rethink what balance they want in their life, that companies are now having to offer more benefits. And we're seeing that again from the recruitment side, that the candidates have a little bit more power, and the companies are really having to think about the benefits, not just the salaries that they're offering. And so I think we're in that interesting position where my whole speech on flexibility and companies offering more flexibility is kind of like, oh, okay, so what's the new mantra? It's very much about educating companies about what the new norm should be and how they regain that balance to retain their talent but attract the right talent. So I think the research that was done probably was very correct at the time. I think it'll be really interesting to redo that research over the next coming year, given that companies have had to change very much their approach to things, and to see what that looks like going forward.
Yes, it is seeming to be like a watershed moment as far as attrition and, looking at an employee holistically and as a person with work-life balance.
All the kids have come on the cameras by now, surely. I can't hide them away.
That's true. So what are the key differentiating factors that employers look for in Salesforce consultants, particularly for part-time workers? How can they uniquely pitch their skills and services without being sidelined?
So, I mean, there is not enough talent out there. The reality is, so there is doors for newcomers to the marketplace, and the way that people need to sell themselves, consultancies want to hire people with industry experience. So they should have a really good, should be selling what industries they've worked in previously, whether that's call centers or retail or telecommunications, whatever it is. and kind of be saying, you know, and basically positioning themselves as a consultant within an industry that they're most familiar with, because that's when you're doing business analysis, it's about understanding the business and the processes. So if you've worked in a certain industry, you come with that knowledge firsthand, right? So that's really what a consultancy firm is needing to sell into their customers as well, to say, look, we have a Salesforce consultancy team that has knowledge of your industry, but also Salesforce products, and we can combine those two things together. And that industry knowledge is much harder to kind of acquire, if you like. Salesforce knowledge you can acquire. The industry knowledge, years of that is harder. So that's a great opportunity. I think the other is people want to see people where there's an appetite for self-learning and self-study and motivation. So a lot of people like hiring our Supermums because they've invested a lot of time and hours and money into training themselves, and also then continuing to train and upskill themselves. They're very accountable. So somebody who's shown that dedication, that commitment to learning Salesforce products, third-party app products as well. Again, we launched our free CPD program, and we're working with Cloud Ally on this to kind of really train people up in a range of third-party apps, because equally that's what consultancies also require, is that breadth of knowledge of the Salesforce product suite, which is not just Salesforce native, but also, you know, other products that can latch onto that to enhance the value of it. So it is really that breadth of knowledge. I think that's the other thing, is don't stop learning, add as much to your CV as you can, and go in there armed with knowledge about what the products are.
Right. And what resources, blogs, communities would you recommend as a starting point to Salesforce newbies to quickly upskill themselves?
Oh, okay, cool. Well, obviously I have to start with the supermums.org website. So we have a blog, and we provide a very educational blog once a week that educates them on a Salesforce product feature or job role or something. So there's a motivational newsletter that goes out every week. So we'd encourage you to sign up to our news bulletin. Alongside that, Trailhead is obviously the other platform we massively use that Salesforce set up, which provides a free educational resource. And then our other favourites are Salesforce Ben, which is great to sign up to, focus on force, Ladies Be Architect, are all great sort of groups, sources of information, videos, resources, you know, to kind of keep abreast of what's going in the marketplace, but also provide motivation for learning.
Right. Yeah, that's a good blog rule. You know, you spoke about Cloud Ally and our partnership doing the CPD program, and you know, talking about that, Salesforce has always acknowledged the importance of protecting data from loss using backup and recovery. And Cloud Ally will be hosting 2 Supermums office hour events about the options available for Salesforce data protection. What steps do you advise by way of due diligence to ensure that your Salesforce data is protected from data loss?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? I think it's first, have you got a data governance plan for your organization? I think it's one of those things that you can think, oh, it'll never happen to us, like it's fine. But I really like the article that we've co-created where we're educating our customers on data governance, because I think, you know, the blog that we've co-created is around, actually it's not just data disappear, you know, it's not about the system going down and not having access to data. There's a lot of ways that data can get accidentally deleted by people, and I've had it done in our org as well. You know, so it could be an accidental deletion, could be a deletion on purpose, it could be
a refresh.
a refresh, yeah, it could be data import that's overwritten stuff that you shouldn't have done, and like, you know, there's all these head plant moments where you're like, oh my god, and what do you do? So don't leave it too late. I think, you know, what you need is a data governance plan. I think you know, working with Cloud Ally in this blog, which hopefully we can put a link to going alongside this webinar, there's a really great toolkit that Cloud Ally put together around all the steps and things and considerations and way to do data backup. So that's what at Supermums we sort of champion, is like, here are some great resources, this is how you can do it, this is what you need to be thinking about. So I download their toolkit to kind of help you think through what you need to do, but what I would recommend is don't leave it to something that's bottom of your list because it might not happen or should happen, because reality is it could, and then it's going to be a problem for your job potentially because it's something that you haven't thought about or do. So definitely take the steps to address it, think about it, and put a plan in place.
Right, that is true. You do need a safety net for your data. Yeah, that's true. So lovely talking to you, Heather, and I will be adding the links below for our viewers to register to the office hour events, and looking forward to those too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, Teresa. Lovely to speak to you today. Thank you everyone for listening.